So hi, everyone. It's a privilege to be here with all of you today. And as we talk about honoring God despite the temptations of survival and success, I'm going to share some key spiritual myths that I've encountered along my own startup journey, as well as some reflections that the Lord has been putting on my heart. The hope is that you'll find something I share today challenging, or maybe even provocative, but all of it will be edifying. First, let me share a little bit about my own background. I grew up in the US in an immigrant family. And after college, I went to East Asia to be a tent maker and ended up doing strategy consulting for a number of years. Eventually, I went back to the US to get my MBA, to get married, and I moved to Silicon Valley to jump into the world of tech, which was a lot of fun. I was a rising star in the company, was earning a great MBA level salary. And as a poor boy who was the first in his family to go to college, it seemed like I was living the dream. At the same time, I was moonlighting on the side for a startup that my wife and I had founded in grad school. We had entered the school startup contest, got some money, and we ended up building a mobile app and launching it. And somehow it reached the top 50 in the App Store. Totally unexpected. However, because we took so long to get it out, we felt that we had missed our window of opportunity. And that was mainly because I had been part-time. So now we need to find a new direction. And after doing a lot of research, we felt we did find that new direction. And I didn't want to miss yet another chance. So in 2016, I left my comfortable job and I went full-time into the startup with my wife. And we've been at it for the last 5 years. And by God's grace, the company's grown a lot. While we've gotten some recognition and investments, we've also gone through a lot of ups and downs. Actually, we're still going through them. Most of my friends tell me they wouldn't want my life. So I'm speaking today as one, not as one who has made it already, but rather as one who's still in the trenches. And it's in the trenches that I've encountered 3 key myths that keep coming up over and over in the startup world. The first myth is this. Sometimes you just need to do anything to survive or to resolve the problem quickly, even if it means making sacrifices. Just focus on getting your own house in order and don't think too much about later. God will understand the pressure you're under. Now, let me say that there's absolutely nothing wrong with trying to solve problems. The temptation with this myth, though, is to focus so much on getting relief right now that we choose to give up what truly matters in eternity. Proverbs 14:12 says that there's a way which seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. Okay, but how can I tell in the moment which way that is? This became a real question for us when we were offered a Faustian bargain from a top-tier investor. Some context, at that point in our company, we were running out of money. And somehow we got connected with this famous VC who was really interested in investing. However, he was wary that we had a newborn son and that this son would distract us from being aggressive and fully committed. So he essentially offered us this deal. If you move to another country and you leave your son behind with his grandparents, I will invest and I'll work with you to build a unicorn, which is $1 billion company. The question he asked was this: what is more important, your family or your happiness? Now, my wife and I were really taken aback by this initially. But when we were facing the possibility of having to close up shop, it actually became something we had to seriously pray about. And for many, accepting this proposal would be a no-brainer because people would kill to have this guy be their investor. And it would instantly brand us as a hot company, and we'd be able to attract more investors, more customers, and our money problems would be over. And there was another voice that was saying, hey, don't people do this all the time? This is a small sacrifice now to secure a better future for our son, right? Can't we make it up to him later once things settle down? And to make it worse, doesn't this timing seem too coincidental? And it came just when we needed it. Maybe this is God's provision. Which voice was right? In the end, what really helped us decide was 2 Corinthians 5:10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each of us may receive what is due us for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad. Whatever our rationale, this is the ultimate reality we all have to face. If I believe that I'm going to have to stand before Jesus and give an account for my choices, a lot of things suddenly become clear because I can't really fool him. In this one, I realized I was tempted by the offer because it would be a quick fix to our current problem. And it would set us on the path to making it big and proving all those doubters wrong. But when I stand before God, he won't be asking me about my self-actualization. He'll be asking me whether I was the father to my son that he wanted me to be. And that matters much more to him in eternity than whether the company thrives. So in light of this truth, we made the difficult choice to reject the offer. The lesson I learned here is that while there's a lot of contradictory noise when the stakes are high, having an eternal perspective can guard my heart now to consider what will really profit me in eternity. So that was myth number one. Myth number two is this: I need success that the world will recognize so that I can have an effective platform to point people to Jesus. Wow, that sounds holy. Glorify me so that I may glorify you. The temptation of this myth, though, is to allow my wicked heart to use glorifying Jesus as a cover for my desire for comfort, for security, for immortality. And I confess, that was me when I first started the company, until God called me out on it. And the way he did it was at a retreat where I was trying to ask him whether I should go full-time into the company. And he instead turned the tables around. He said, no, this is my company. Why should I allow you to join? And like a good interviewer, he tore my answers apart to reveal the truth of my heart. And then he asked me whether I'm still willing to follow, even if he doesn't promise to provide any of the things I want. That was humbling. What does the Bible say about this myth, though? Well, 1 Corinthians 1:27 says, "But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. And God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before him." So it sure seems that he is in the business of glorifying himself, not from elevating me to a position of strength, but rather through my present weakness. And one unexpected area in which this has come out is when I try to reach out to build relationships with fellow entrepreneurs with the goal of talking about their souls. And it's amazing how founders, they wear their hearts on their sleeves, and they're willing to tell you right away what they really care about. This is mind-blowing to me because in a big company, I often had to wait years until my colleagues would talk to me that honestly. But these founders, they do it after only a few minutes. And I realized that the reason they would open their hearts is actually because I'm a fellow founder who's still in the trenches just like them. In fact, if I had already made it big, then I would actually lose access because now they would see me as a potential investor. And then they'd have to put their game faces on and they'd have to close their hearts. The truth is that I don't need to be able to tell the epic story of how I have overcome. He just wants me to tell the story that he's writing in my life right now. And he's more than able to use it to draw people to himself. The final myth that I want to share is this: business successes are a reflection of my ability and my efforts. Or in Christian circles, how pleasing I am to God. Now, on the surface, this cause and effect seems very logical. But the temptation in this myth is to believe that results are mainly determined by my ability or effort or awesomeness. This is exactly what we've all grown up learning, though. If I study hard, then my grades are going to reflect it. And as an entrepreneur, I feel this relentless pressure to prove myself to investors and detractors and observers by showing awesome growth. And I have to confess, whenever we sign a deal, or we get amazing TV coverage in front of 1 billion people, or an investor agrees to put in money, I naturally want to think that my effort and quality made it happen. But does the Bible agree with this? Well, Psalm 75, 5-7 says, "No one from the east or the west or from the desert can exalt themselves. It is God who judges. He brings one down, he exalts another." Well, fine. God is the one who ultimately decides the results of my efforts. But the fact that good things are happening to me must mean that he's judging me to be pleasing to him, right? Well, Matthew 5:45 says, "He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous." Oh, this means that he's not necessarily blessing my work because I am pleasing. I actually have to keep making sure that I'm walking in line with him. I found that this truth about effort not being linked to success reflected in my own experience. An advisor one time made an observation that it seems that all the major wins for our company seem to come from things that God did rather than due to our hard work. And when I heard that, I was dumbstruck because as I thought about it, it was actually true. Different examples came to mind. For the one being, I think about our first investor. One of the accepted rules about fundraising is that no one invests if they've never met you. But our first investor was a woman whom we had never met. And she just called us out of the blue one day and said she heard that we were fundraising and she'd like to invest $100,000. We've been trying so hard to find investors, and he just proved that he can make money appear out of nowhere. I also think about this partnership we struck with a large industry leader. This is an influential network that shapes the entire sector. And people usually have to beg or they bribe their way in. Well, we didn't have to do either of those. So people found that this was so unbelievable. It was so unbelievable that they thought, I just didn't want to admit that we used tricks to get in. And lastly, I think about our company's current direction. For years, people had asked, hey, why are you growing so slowly? Why are you doing things this way? However, we discovered this year that the direction that God had set us on, without us even knowing, this had become a hot new trend. And suddenly people started wondering, how did we have so much foresight? And the truth is, we really didn't. He did. All of these are ironic, but they're all very much in line with his ways. Now, I'm not saying that hard work doesn't matter, but recognizing that my effort and the results are not necessarily linked. This helps free me to stand in awe of him and to live in dependency on the one who is really making things happen. And in eternity, I think that will probably profit me more than any success that I can see here on earth. So to wrap up, I hope something that I've shared today encourages or promotes you. The 3 myths I shared represent some of the key lessons I've learned about how to thrive even with the relentless pressure to survive and to succeed as an entrepreneur. First, I need to have an internal perspective to see this life and my choices properly. Secondly, I can celebrate the story that he is telling now rather than dreaming of later. And lastly, I can be free to live dependently on him, even while working my hardest. My attitude toward business survival and success has changed over the years. It's changed from glorify me so that I may glorify you to Proverbs 30, 7-9. 2 things I ask of you, Lord. Do not refuse me before I die. Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, who is the Lord? Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God. Ultimately, the survival or success of my company isn't what matters in eternity. He's doing the real work in the souls of people, and that includes my own, and often happens in me and despite of me. And the sooner I can get on board with his program, the better it will be for everyone. He must increase, and I must decrease, because in the end, only his name matters. So that's what I want to share with all of you today.